Welcome to the Goodyear City Council meeting. We're excited to have you be a part of this important public process. Tonight, you will have the opportunity to address City Council on both non-agenda and agenda items. You must fill out a speaker request card in order to address the City Council. The agendas and speaker request cards are located in the back of the council chambers. Please drop your completed card in the tray next to the blank speaker cards. If the meeting has already begun, please hand it to the city employee at the back of the room. You may check the "I do not wish to speak" option on the card. This allows you to let council know your opinion without having to speak. In accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, please contact a staff member if you need any assistance. Public comment on a non-agenda item will take place during the citizen comment portion of the evening. These are items that don't appear on tonight's formal agenda. The city clerk will call your name when it's time for you to speak. At that time, please approach the podium and tell us your name for the record. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. The timer is on the screens visible from the podium. Note that you may also choose not to speak if other speakers before you have said what you wanted to say. Shouting, cheering, and loud noises will not be tolerated, and violators may be removed for disrupting the meeting. Goodyear City Council meetings stream live on Facebook, YouTube, X, and online at goodyearaz.gov. Follow the city's social media pages so you don't miss out on all that's happening in Goodyear. Thank you for coming to this meeting and being an active part of your city. And remember, it's a great time to be in Goodyear.
I'd like to call the regular meeting to order for April 27th, 2026. Please mark if you are present. Will the clerk please let us know who is present for the record?
Let the record reflect that Mayor Pizzillo is absent.
Can I get a motion and a second to excuse Mayor Pizzillo? Looks like Councilmember Keno and Councilmember Campbell have done that for us. Okay, now we'll vote. Looks like it passed unanimously. All right, please join Councilmember Terry in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Almighty God, we thank you for this city and the people who call it home. Bless the work done here tonight and the work done across Goodyear every day. Be with our police officers and our firefighters. Watch over them over every call. Amen.
Thank you. All right, we have 2 communication items tonight. The first item is to receive a recap of the 2026 spring training season. I'd like to introduce yourselves, Bruce, for us.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, Council. Bruce Cussman, Ballpark General Manager. And as you know, spring training is such an exciting time for us here in Goodyear. We completed the 2026 spring training season on March 22nd, which was our 18th season here in Goodyear. I'm joined tonight by Cody Bennett, Assistant General Manager, Ballpark Operations, and he's going to be presenting on the 2026 spring training season.
All right. Good evening, everybody. 2026 spring training, unprecedented heat through everything this spring was still a successful season for us. We had 30 games, 15 for each of our teams, 15 for the Cincinnati Reds, 15 for the Cleveland Guardians. Some of our highlights, we did host a World Baseball Classic game against Team Cuba. Our game on Monday, the 16th of March, was our largest game of the season against the Cubs, where we welcomed over 8,000 people to that game. So overall, again, a very successful season, especially given the circumstances of a very challenging weather. Moving on to that, just kind of the rundown of the attendance. We drew just over 146,000 fans for the 2026 spring training season. This is relatively flat from prior years. We have maintained our standing within the Cactus League overall, so that number is very consistent from last year. Moving into some of our highlights from 2026 spring training. A couple photos here. Councilmember Beckles, I'm sure firing a first pitch strike there for before the opening game. Our deal with City of Hope, we have a home run for life. We team with City of Hope here in Goodyear, and we obviously honor a cancer survivor. That's the photo on the right here. Obviously, a very special moment where both of our teams are involved and play a big part in making that moment. Different promotions and activations that we have throughout spring training. We have 4 Kids Run the Bases games after every Saturday game. So Ace there, giving a little high five to our fans, our younger generation. And then, of course, we have a couple senior stroll after a couple games as well. Different promotions as far as giveaways that we have during spring training, or we had during this spring training. We always do for when our 2 teams play each other for opening day. We had a scheduled magnet giveaway for St. Patrick's Day. This is the 5th year of our pint glass giveaway, kind of a nice little tradition that we have continued. And then for the last game of the year, with all the hot weather, we did pass out some koozies to keep our beverages warm for all of our fans there. A couple photos here are just highlighting some of the projects. Obviously, our facility, as Bruce mentioned, we're 18 years now, so making sure that our facility and our venue is keeping up to date with maintenance and upkeep. We renovated our suites this past year, so brand new furniture, brand new flooring. Everything was redone inside the suites to make a better experience for our fans for this season. And then the photo on the left, we took an area that was a little bit more underutilized during spring training, down in the left field corner. Being that it was in the sun at all times of the day, we did remove a few seats, a couple hundred seats in that area, but we did add a group area. A left field landing is the name of this area that was immensely popular, basically sold every single game, groups all the way up to 150, and Precious Shade obviously was added to this area to provide for the fans, as well as food and beverage as well for this group area. Next slide, I want to highlight our volunteers. We cannot do what we do during spring training every year without our volunteers. This year, 2026, we had over 80 volunteers help us during the season, accumulating over 4,000 hours during the season. So everything they do, they get to the stadium early. They are helping to wipe down seats before fans enter. They're helping pass out giveaways. And more than anything, they are ensuring that Goodyear Ballpark is consistently and always mentioned as the friendliest ballpark in the Cactus League. Moving on from spring training, very quickly, we do have events throughout the year. We want to make sure, being a city and community venue, that we stay active throughout the year. Probably one of the best things that we do right after spring training, we allow every Goodyear Little League team to play a game on the main ballpark. So that's actually ongoing right now, having games at the ballpark. We'll have some state baseball playoffs. We will have city events, including the 4th of July, including our fall festival. We have some adult league baseball games in the fall that we will transition into. And then in addition to the ballpark, down at the development complexes, we have tournaments from Memorial Day to Labor Day, pretty much every single weekend with Perfect Game, our partnership with them. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Could we have a comment from Councilmember Terry?
Yes, I didn't see it in this report. What was our attendance relative to last year? Just rough percentage-wise, was it up, was it down?
It was down slightly, I believe, around 2 to 3%.
Okay. There were probably about 50 World Baseball Classic games that took away top talent from pretty much every team. So
Yes,
I was sort of expecting that, so thank you.
Councilmember Campbell?
So Bruce, I want to congratulate you and your entire staff on a wonderful season. I've been there for the last 18 years, going to those ball games, and it just gets better every single year. So thank you, and we really appreciate the fan interaction that you are making larger and easier to do for everyone. So thank you so much. We just appreciate all you're doing.
Thank you.
Councilmember Keno?
I wanted to thank you for your acknowledgement of our volunteers. They're a tremendous asset, and met many of them through the volunteer appreciation, and they are just passionate about their role there. And we're really quite fortunate to have such a large workforce of willing volunteers. Probably most of the games I went to were related to the economic development outreach, and it was always so interesting and inspiring to hear from people who are looking to locate businesses here, already here, just to have that experience in the park, to really comment at how well maintained, how good it looks, what a great community asset it is. And so it was just good to hear another facet of appreciation for the good work you do.
Councilmember Beckles?
Yes, I also want to thank you. Baseball is one of my passions, so I was excited to attend many of the games also, including some that weren't part of the economic development. But I did read somewhere that Goodyear ballpark got a national recognition as the third best ballpark between the Cactus League and the Grapefruit League. Is that?
That is accurate, yes. That was the
Thank you.
United States today.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Councilmember Gillis?
Bruce, you know I love baseball. That's my thing. You knew that from the very beginning. But I love, love, love what you did with the suites. You and I talked about that, remember? I love it. I think you did a really good job, and you did it for a really good price. I'd love to see some pictures on the walls of some of the teams that are playing there. Just an idea. I think we could use that in there. But I love what you did. I thought you did a great job. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I also appreciate you guys as well. It's a great amenity for us here in the city of Goodyear, and I really appreciate the councils in the past that brought spring training to Goodyear. So definitely a great amenity, great effort, economic development, great volunteers. So it's a great time to be here in Goodyear, and I really like having that amenity. So thank you for all your guys' hard work in the team. Looking forward to next year too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the second item is a proclamation recognizing the Millennium High School girls basketball team for winning the 2026 Arizona Interscholastic Association Open Division State Championship. Will the team please join me in this area down here? Thank you.
In the well.
The well.
The well.
Let's see, me too.
They're gonna be taller than you. I know. Congratulations. How exciting.
So read it, and then hand it to him. We do this first, the pictures first, or just go? Okay. Welcome. Congratulations. Oh, we're doing a picture first? All right. All right. What, something happened? You in there too? Awesome. All right. I'll read the proclamation here from the mayor. Mayor's not here, but he obviously sends his well wishes, so I'll read here. So Millennium High School, Arizona AIA Open Girls Basketball State Championships is the proclamation from the mayor and the city of Goodyear. Whereas the mayor and council of the city of Goodyear recognize the 2025-2026 Millennium High School girls basketball team for their outstanding dedication, effort, including their second consecutive Open State Championship, the AIA's highest level playoff bracket in girls basketball. Whereas this marks the Lady Tigers' sixth state basketball title since 2019, making history as the first girls team in Arizona to win back-to-back Open Division championships. Whereas on March 7th, 2026, Millennium secured a thrilling 58-52 overtime victory against Sandra Day O'Connor at the Arizona Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Whereas freshman center Amaya Ribbons Brown was named game MVP after scoring 17 points, including 6 of the team's 10 overtime points and contributing 6 rebounds in a clutch performance. Good job. Whereas the Lady Tigers achieved an impressive 25-4 overall record this season and closed the year with a 12-game winning streak, showcasing consistent excellence on both ends of the court. Whereas the hard work, determination, sportsmanship, and talent of this team, guided by head coach Danny Solomon and his staff, Tamika Stooks, Tanner Norris, Riley Peterson, and Cassidy Dixon have established a tradition of excellence and brought honor to Millennium High School, the Iowa Free Union High School District, the City of Goodyear, and the West Valley. Now therefore be it resolved that on behalf of Joe Pizzillo, Mayor of Goodyear, Arizona, he does hereby recognize and extend congratulations to Millennium girls basketball team coaches and a support staff of this exceptional achievement. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just want to point out this is becoming an annual tradition. So congratulations, ladies.
Now is the time for members of the public who wish to address the city council on any non-agenda items within the jurisdiction of the Goodyear City Council. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Vice Mayor.
No. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak on a non-agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Will the city clerk please read consent agenda items 3 through 8 by title only?
Item 3, approval of minutes. Item 4, approval of Series 10 beer and wine store liquor license for Bucky's Goodyear LLC. Item 5, approval of Series 14 private club liquor license for Avondale Moose Lodge number 2078. Item 6, approval of budget amendments and related expenditure authority. Item 7, approval of intergovernmental agreement with Maricopa County for homeless outreach services fiscal year 2027. And item 8, adopt resolution number 2026-2517, authorizing the acquisition of real and personal property interest needed for the Del Camino Lift Station Force Main and Sewer Relocation Project. All right, we have 3 public hearings tonight. Our first public hearing is to review and consider amending stipulation number 13 of the approved use permit for PV10 McDonald's located at the northeast corner of Indian School Road and Saraville Avenue. Open the public hearing. And it looks like we got, introduce yourself for everybody in attendance, please, Ann.
Of course. Yes, good evening, Vice Mayor and Council. My name is Ann Dolmage, Principal Planner, and this is a stipulation review for stipulation number 13 of the use permit for the McDonald's in the PV10 Commercial Center. So PV10 is located at the northeast corner of Indian School Road and Saraville Avenue, and it is part of the Palm Valley Phase 5 PAD, permitting general commercial or C2 uses. McDonald's is just one use within the center. That's the red box in the lower left corner. The blue boundary is the full extent of PV10. A commercial building with a Starbucks drive-through and retail space is currently under construction directly east of McDonald's. And a self-storage facility received special use permit approval in 2022, but has never been built. So that special use permit has expired. So McDonald's obtained use permit approval at a council hearing in November of 2022. At that hearing, several members of the public brought up concerns about the project, including the proposed hours of business, which were 24 hours per day. In response to this concern, the following stipulation was imposed on the project to restrict hours to 5 a.m. to midnight and to require a council review of the hours 1 year after the start of operations. And the full language of the stipulation is on this slide. McDonald's did receive its certificate of occupancy in May of 2025. That was the trigger for starting the 1 year time limit. So that 1 year review is due. Since starting operations, there have been no code compliance cases that are related to the hours of operation for this McDonald's. The hours are comparable with those of other McDonald's drive-thrus within the city of Goodyear, as described in the council action report. An alternative citizen review was conducted for this project, which involves sending postcard notifications to neighbors within a 550-foot buffer to let them know that this review would be taking place tonight. We also sent a second round of postcards when the public hearing was scheduled, as well as posting a sign on the property and publishing a legal ad in the newspaper. And we've received no comments in response to any of these notifications. Staff recommends that stipulation number 13 for this use permit to be modified to read as follows. Hours of operation shall be from 5:00 a.m. to 12:00 a.m. This removes the language about the one-year stipulation review, and it also allows McDonald's to continue to operate under their established hours. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
I have one speaker card from the owner, Darian Mellon, who is available if you have any questions.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Would anybody in the audience like to speak on this topic? Nope. All right, then I'm gonna close the public hearing. The council, please enter a motion and a second to amend stipulation number 13 of the approved use permit for PB10 McDonald's located at the northeast corner of Indian School Road and Saraville Avenue. I see a motion and a second have been entered. Open for council discussion. And I have Councilmember Campbell up first.
So my question is, has McDonald's asked to change their hours to 24? Because we do have two other McDonald's in Goodyear that are operating 24 hours a day.
Thank you for that question, Vice Mayor Hampton and Councilmember Campbell. There have been no requests from this McDonald's location to alter their hours.
Okay, if I understand correctly, the businesses that are adjacent immediately west of them are not 24-hour operations, right? That's the UPS and.
I do believe
So,
they are. I do
okay,
believe they
that's
run
fine.
around
I
the
just
clock.
wanted to make
Yeah.
sure, because this stipulation was put in simply because the neighborhood was concerned, even that it's coming in. And they really are doing a big business, and it's very convenient. So I just wanted to make sure that we're open if they need to extend their hours.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Councilmember Keno.
And you said that there were no code compliance cases, so would noise fall under code compliance?
Yes, Vice Mayor Hampton and Councilmember Kano, that's true. There have been a few code enforcement cases in the past 2 years, but they've all been related to weeds.
Okay.
And those problems have been abated. There was one about odor control. The code enforcement officer could not find any odor issues when they visited the site. And there is an odor abatement mechanism in the restaurant that's designed to help control that.
Okay. Yeah, I was interested specifically in noise, and it hasn't come up, so
No.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. There being no further discussion, please open the voting. Passes unanimously. Okay. Our next public hearing is to consider a use permit request for a convenience use drive-through oil change facility located north of the northwest corner of Elliott Road and San Gabriel Drive East. Open the public hearing.
Yes.
Please introduce yourself.
Yeah.
And welcome back.
Thank you. Ann Dalmage again, Principal Planner. This is a use permit request for a convenience use in Estrella, and the use in question is a drive-through oil change facility. So the project site is shown here in red. It's just over 1 acre in size. It's located in the Elliott Crossing Commercial Center that's at the northwest corner of Elliott Road and San Gabriel Drive East. Elliott Crossing has PAD zoning and permits C2 general commercial uses, and the blue boundary is the full extent of Elliott Crossing. The center does already include a gas station with convenience store, a restaurant, 2 medical buildings, and a self-storage facility that is currently under construction. The applicant is proposing a new auto repair facility, shown here. There will be 3 service bays for drive-through oil changes on the east side of the building, and queuing space for up to 9 cars. That's 3 cars behind each service bay. Additional services like brake pads, alignments, tire repair will take place in the west side of the building. That's also where the offices and storage spaces are located. And only the oil change services will use a drive-through format where the customers stay in their car throughout the service. So only the oil change component qualifies as a convenience use and is subject to the use permit requirement. All other services to be offered here are already permitted uses in C2. There'll be 2 driveways from San Gabriel East shown here. They're both full-service driveways. And there's also 2 driveways from Elliott Road, which are not shown here. And we have 2 building elevations on this slide. This is the north and east side of the building. Elliott Crossing does have its own design guidelines, which promote an early 20th century architectural style. So this business is addressing those guidelines by using brick as one of their main primary building materials. They've also incorporated pitched roof elements and awnings, and it borrows colors and materials that are being used on the self-storage facility currently under construction next door. So there will be a unified appearance. Queuing lanes and parking will be screened from the street with a solid masonry wall. And service bay doors are located on the north and south sides of the building and will not be facing the street. The closest residential properties to the project site are shown here. Sonoran Vistas and Hidden Hills are to the north, and they are separated from the site by hilly topography. Cordero and Avalon del Lago are just over a quarter mile to the southwest and southeast. While we're not proposing a stipulation to restrict the business hours, they're expected to run from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Saturday. That leaves evenings and Sundays free, which minimizes impacts to surrounding neighborhoods. Again, an alternative citizen review was conducted for this project, sending postcards to 10 neighbors within a 500-foot buffer. Notifications were also provided for this public hearing, including a second round of postcards, signposting on the site, a legal ad, and a posting on the website. No comments have been received as a result of any of these notifications. The project went to Planning and Zoning Commission on April 15th. No members of the public spoke about it, and the commission voted to recommend approval 6-0 with 1 commissioner absent. And our recommendation is to approve the use permit for a convenience use, a drive-through oil change facility, subject to staff stipulations. And I believe the applicant is here tonight, and I'm also available for questions.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to speak? I don't see anything. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Vice Mayor.
Okay, would anybody in the audience like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Will the council please enter a motion and a second to approve a use permit request for a convenience use drive-through oil change facility located north of the northwest corner of Elliott Road and San Gabriel Drive East? I see a motion and a second. Open for council discussion. Councilmember Terry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just for a quick reasoning on why use permit, as you mentioned, this is already zoned for this purpose and has been for quite a long time. What exactly about this building makes it require a use permit?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Terry. Per the definition of convenience use, which I'm trying to find, sorry.
Maybe I can help slightly. Is it, my understanding is it's because there are garage doors on both sides of the building to allow for a drive-through. Does that sound correct?
Yes, somewhat. Per the definition of convenience use, most types of drive-throughs do require a use permit if they qualify. So it's stores less than 7,500 square feet, and all stores regardless of size with a drive-through window, drive-through aisles, or any sort of drive-through facility that sell, and then it lists certain items that are for sale. Additionally, car washes, self-service or automated, drive-through laundry, and drive-through video stores. So Staff had made the determination that a drive-through oil change is substantially similar to these uses
Got it.
and then qualifies.
I just wanted to point out, again, for anybody potentially watching, it's been zoned for this purpose for a long time. And if one side of the building didn't have the garage doors and it was just pull in and then back out, it would not even require a use permit.
That's true. Yeah,
Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, that was my understanding. That's what I wanted to get forward for. The reason for this hearing is specifically that use permit to just allow them, to be able to go out the other side of the building if they wanted to as well. All right, thank you. That's all I have, Vice Mayor.
Great. Councilmember Beckles.
Yes. So the primary access is by the storage facility for the oil change. Is that correct?
Yes, Councilmember Beckles, that's correct.
Okay. So does that in any way impede access to the other businesses in that area?
It should not. We do have a proposed condition of approval that states should there be any backups, that the property owner should remedy the situation immediately, which could include getting us a traffic management study and then getting that approved by staff.
Also, so for the drive-through, and for the full service, are you saying that there's 9 queues there? Or is that just for the drive-through?
So for the drive-through, there's 3 service bays and then room for 9 cars to queue up behind those service bays, so 3 per bay.
Okay.
For the rest of the building, I believe it looks like they have 3, another 3, but on each side, so it's a total of 6.
Okay, I was just curious, because I understand it's 10-minute oil change.
Yeah.
And if somebody gets stuck, or if ends up being a problem, is there a place to get them out of the way so the other cars can come through?
They would need to move, to be honest, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And will there be directional signs to show which bay you go in for full service and which bay you go in for the drive-through?
I don't believe any signage has been proposed as part of this use permit, but that would be considered with the site plan and the sign permit.
Probably yes. Yes, it says yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, looks like all the questions. I had a couple questions too. Was there any noise study with this? I think we're far enough away and the hours probably preclude that as an issue, but I was just curious if there was a noise study.
No, Vice Mayor, no noise study was done.
Okay, just thinking about the impact wrenches and things like that being operated there, but it's like a normal shopping center probably with a place like this in there. Yeah, I think I've gotten comments that some residents aren't super happy about this, but I know a lot are very excited about this because this is an area that doesn't have this use at all within miles of this area here for all the residents that live in Estrella Mountain Ranch. So I'm glad they're getting, Estrella Mountain Ranch is getting a place like this because they don't have this there. So it's definitely a need. So thank you for choosing Goodyear, and I think it'll be a good use there. All right, so with that, there being no further discussion, please open the voting. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving on. Our last public hearing is to collect public comments on the proposed FY 2027 to 2030 consolidated plan, including its citizen participation plan and FY 2027 annual action plan. Open the public hearing. Please introduce yourself as you're coming up to the podium for everybody.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Christina Panatescu, Community Partnerships Program Manager. I am here for the public hearing. We're in the middle of the public comment period for our consolidated plan and annual action plan for CDBG HUD funding. So the consolidated plan is really about information that's provided by HUD and data about our community. And then the annual action plan talks about specifically how we intend to invest our CDBG Community Development Block Grant allocation in fiscal year '27. Again, the consolidated plan is the framework, and the annual action plan identifies the specific activities. So we'll be back next year to talk about FY '28 funds, and they'll still conform to the larger consolidated plan priorities. So the process for this is always to begin with outreach, get public input, input from different department directors and executive leadership around what our greatest needs are that might be eligible. We look at the data to support our recommendations and create a final plan. What we've come to for the next 4 years is high priority areas that are eligible will be attainable and sustainable housing, community facilities and improvements, public services, and program administration. And we wanted to continue to keep economic development on the list in case a great opportunity presented itself. We could work that into a future plan without having to come back and revise our consolidated plan. The only real change from the previous 5-year plan was that attainable and sustainable housing moved from lower priority to higher priority. I'm pleased to say that since this was due for publication, we have learned our actual allocation. During the planning process, we were working off of an estimate of $415,000 because that's what we received last year. But next year, we will be receiving $482,286 from MUD. So 20% of that we're recommending be used for program administration. That would include doing environmental reviews, any special training related to the way the HUD programs work, et cetera. And that will wind up being $96,457. And then the maximum allowed for public services is 15% of the total allocation. We're actually recommending the $62,268 to support Giovanni Cares, who provides community legal services and landlord-tenant mediation and counseling for people facing eviction. That is actually 13% of our total allocation, so less than it could be, but it meets the number that Giovanni Cares proposed they would need to serve our Goodyear residents. And then the balance will go towards reviving our owner-occupied home rehab program at $323,561, which we will procure through contract. So the public comment period, as I said, has been open since the 1st. There's 3 days left. Any final comments will be incorporated into the final version. So far, we have not received any comments during the public comment period. And then the final version will be available on the city's website and will come to you for adoption at the May 4th council meeting. That's next Monday, to authorize submission because it's due to HUD by May 15th. And so we'll get that in right away. And we'll wait for HUD to approve our plan and expect to have funds available sometime after July 1. Are there any questions?
Great, thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Vice Mayor.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak on this topic? Nope. So now I will close the public hearing. No council action is required on this item, but I'm going to open up for council discussion. Anybody on the council like to talk about this? Looks like nobody. I got a quick question for myself. How many houses do we get for $300,000 projected?
Well, it will
To rehab.
depend on the amount of work that needs to be done, so it could vary. But the maximum that our policy, or the way our program is structured, is set for is $30,000 per house. So divide that
10.
by 30,000, and that will be the low end of the number.
Okay, yeah, so I make sure it's using it for the best possible use there, so thank you. Okay, thank you for that.
Thanks.
All right. We have 2 items on business. I would like to remind council to wait for a motion and a second before discussion. Our first item is to consider approving a regional parking garage development agreement with RG Land Partners. Please introduce yourself. Looks like Rourke and Kenny.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and Council. I'm Kenny Knudsen, Interim City Manager, and I'll also be joined with me by Rourke Massey, our City Attorney, and we'll take you through this item tonight. It's regarding a proposed development of agreement for the regional parking garage and the GSQ development. We've spoken to Council about this topic on several occasions leading up to tonight's recommended action. Most recently with Council's approval on November 17th of last year of a letter of intent outlining the key terms for the regional parking garage development agreement. So here's our agenda for this evening presentation. I'm going to cover the background of the proposed design while Rourke covers the development agreement and timeline. And then we'll conclude with the recommendation before you for tonight for approval. You see the aerial photo up here on the slide. It's a little dated. It doesn't include a lot of the stuff that's been going on over in GSQ, but it is looking northeast in the direction of GSQ. You can see City Hall and Civic Square in the middle of the photo. I've highlighted a red star here to show where the proposed location is for the regional parking garage. The background related to this, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the GSQ vision for its development. You can see here that you've got a picture here of the rendering of the Civic Square along with City Hall and Gen 1 office building. But the real reason why we were looking at for GSQ was to have that walkable urban downtown feel for GSQ with also a mixed use development. So we had multiple types of uses in there. We also wanted to make sure pedestrian first was part of the design to make sure it was very walkable feel with the pedestrian in mind. And then finally, we wanted to have those vibrant public spaces. And so this is really what we're here talking about tonight is really to be able to try to make sure that happens as part of the development, especially east of 150th Drive. I know this is talking about west of 150th Drive. So here is a little bit of a map of aerial showing here the location on GSQ. You can have a little more detail here. This is to orient yourself. You've got McDowell and Bullard Avenue on the bottom right of the photo. I've overlaid here the lots layouts for the GSQ area we're talking about in red. And you can see Goodyear Way stretching east and west across there between 150th Drive and Bullard Avenue. What I want to focus on tonight is the garage parcel, which is lot 19. And I'm going to blow that up right here so you can see it a little bit easier. But that's where our garage parcel will be located in lot 19. So zooming in a little bit more, here is the site plan that shows exactly where on lot 19 the garage would sit. It would sit on the western portion of the garage, or this lot. And I also mentioned that we talk about a police substation being incorporated into this development agreement, and it will be incorporated within the footprint of the garage parcel. And then you also see the 2 private parcels on the east side of this lot. Those will be private development within the GSQ development. And that hatched area, that hatched area is actually the public open space easement area. So that's in an area where we'll have a public open space amenities developed as part of this development agreement as well. So now I'm going to turn it over to Rourke to talk a little bit about the development agreement terms and timeline.
Thank you, Kenny. Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, Rourke Massey, and the city attorney. This, as Kenny referenced earlier, this item was presented back in December of last year. It's been a project we've been working with RG Land Partners on for quite some time to get it in front of council in the final form this evening. We did present a letter of intent to council back in December with the general deal points that we sent, that council did approve, and we worked over the last few months in refining that and integrating into the development agreement in front of you. The development agreement, the delivery model of the parking garage is very similar to the model we followed in delivering the City Hall and the Civic Center Park. It's a public-private partnership between ourselves and RG Land Partners, which is the development entity between Red Development and Globe Corps. There's been a few modifications to the project since we approved the LOI, and I'll just highlight those at a high level. Not really material, just as we work through the deal and work through the design, a few things changed. We're still within the overall scope of the budget that we presented back in December of last year of the $25 million. But again, there's been a few modifications. So just the high point of the development agreement is RG Land Partners will manage the project. They will donate the land that we will develop the parking garage on. It's estimated to be about 1.5 acres. They will manage the project using public procurement methods. So, which under Title 34 in Arizona, if you're going to expend public funds, you need to follow public procurement. They will follow those models just as they did here with the City Hall project. The timeline is they will begin development fairly soon, and the goal is to have at least a temporary C of O and it open for operation in February of next year. That is to align with other retail and other projects coming online in the area. The project will allocate up to $20 million for the development of the parking garage and other soft and design costs towards the project to deliver a project of approximately 600 parking spaces. Just for comparison purposes, we have 2 garages here adjacent to the City Hall. We have the city-owned parking garage north of the City Hall, kind of across from the library. That's about 900 spaces. The parking garage across from Banner is about 600 spaces. So roughly the size of the Banner, the garage next to the Banner. Let's see here. We're going to incorporate the shell of a police pub substation. As Keeney indicated, it's going to be developed within the perimeter of the parking garage, 1,500 square feet. When we discussed the LOI back in December, we contemplated that would be a turnkey operation, much like the rest of the garage. As we started working through the intricacies of developing a police substation, kind of recognize that's probably something we need to spend a little bit more time designing. So they're going to develop and deliver a shell with utilities of 1,500 square feet. And the city will then do the tenant improvements at a later date once we've had thoughtfully designed the structure. But we do still have room in our overall construction budget of about $3 million to fully do the TIs for that project. But that is a deviation from the LOI that we previously discussed. The public spaces, as Keeney showed you a little bit of a diagram. When we talked about the LOI back in December, the public gathering spaces was more adjacent to the parking garage, and that was going to be city-owned and operated at that time. The design is now integrating that into some of the private development with the 2 private parcels. So we're not going to own that parcel, but we're going to assist in the development of that parcel and contribute up to $1 million for those public amenities. But that'll be owned and operated by the developer. And so that is a change from the LOI. Let's see. Other major deal terms, again, we talked about RG Land Partners donating the land. They're going to pay off any assessments that are still remaining on the parcel from the McDonald Road Improvement Project, so that there's still assessments that'll be paid off before the project is conveyed to the city, and they'll remove any CC&Rs that are on the project. So it'll be delivered to the city free and clear of any encumbrances. Again, the intent is approximately 600 spaces. Of course, the market's going to dictate that within our overall budget of $20 million for the garage itself. This is intended to relieve some of the parking obligations on the remainder of the project. So we don't want a sea of parking lots in our new downtown area. So we're looking to maybe move some of that into the district parking solution. It'll intended to alleviate 450 spaces of surface parking, assuming we're going to get 600 spaces out of the garage. There's some terms in the agreement that if the 600 spaces moves up or down, the 450 also moves up and down. That's a little bit of a deviation from the LOI, and just wanted to highlight that for you this evening. And the final agreement between the parties is moving forward. The city and the Property Owners Association for the GSQ will share in the ongoing annual parking operating costs for the garage on a 50-50 basis. So it'll be a partnership as far as moving forward in the operations costs. With that, we would ask you to approve the resolution tonight, approving the development agreement between the city and RG Land Partners. And Ed Bull is here this evening representing RG Land Partners if council has any questions for him as well.
Great, thank you, Rourke. Are there any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards.
Would any in the audience like to speak about this? No? 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 All right, with that, will the city clerk please read resolution number 2026-2518 by title only?
Adopt resolution number 2026-2518, approving the development agreement with RG Land Partners LLC for the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of a regional parking garage, police substation, and public open space amenities within Goodyear Civic Square.
Will the council please enter a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2026-2518? I see a motion and a second have been entered, open for council discussion, starting with Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions, Rory. For this location, is this to enhance the possibility of a hotel coming in?
It is certainly, their hotel is in conversations for development in the parcel, and it is in close proximity to one of the sites under consideration. While this is a district parking solution generally open to the public, the agreement does call out that if any specific users in the future need to fulfill specific parking requirements, we can enter into agreements with that specific user, likely under a lease of parking spaces.
Okay, so would we do it because we own part of that rather than RLG doing it?
As far as the parking garage, we will own it in its entirety.
Okay.
And we have the right to manage that at our own discretion.
Okay. To your knowledge, is it still going to be free parking for our residents for
It's-
now?
For now, it's intended to be free parking. We do have some discretion under the agreement, but that's the intent, to have a free
Okay.
public parking solution.
And I've got a couple of more questions. You were talking about the lawn area that we're going to, I'm going to say help pay for or give $1 million to. Do we have any language in there that it will be compatible with what our front lawn is now to the Goodyear City Hall? So that it is cohesive somewhat? It doesn't have to be identical, but we want it to look good.
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Campbell, members of council, at this point in time, we don't have a design or, exactly how it's going to look, that center area for the public open space amenities. I don't envision it's going to be exactly like Civic Square out in front of City Hall, but it will be a place where we can have public gathering or events that we can activate over in there. So we'll work with RGLP on the design of that to make sure it is compatible with both the city's parking garage use there, but also the retail activities that go on over in GSQ.
Well, I don't really want it identical, but I want it, and I'm saying compatible because I don't know what else word to use, but nothing so far out that I'd like to make sure it enhances our GSQ area, which I'm sure it will. But since we're not going to own it, we're just going to use it to have events there. We're not going to have a lot to say about it. So I just, would like, as y'all move through the process, keep that in mind. And my last question, I noticed for the parcel, it's on the land that we own. It's not. Is it? Did I misunderstand that?
We don't currently own the land. It's that parcel 19. The land will be conveyed to the city.
To us, because we own the land behind the city hall.
Well, we own the land to the north of City Hall. This
Wherever
is on
north
the other-
is. I don't know where north
closer to
is.
the Harkins.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And then my very last question is, are we going to, I'm assuming it's gonna be the same color and all of that, like what we already have. And you showed that it was on McDowell and Bullard. Is that correct? But it's in the center, so it would be, we've got First Watch, and we've got the sushi place, we've got Trader Joe's, then we're coming in with Firebirds, and then we're coming in with something else. So it'll be kind of adjacent to that. Am I doing it?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Campbell, members of
Oh, it's
council.
even further in. Oh,
Yeah, the
gosh,
garage
yes.
parcel's
Okay.
right here, where I've got it
Okay.
highlighted on with the
I got it.
mouse there.
And so it's between Trader Joe's over here and the roundabouts. I got it. Okay, thank you. That's a great place for it. Okay, thanks.
All right. I guess my comment would be, parking garages are great. So I think they really spur a lot of economic development. They bring more retail. Make more spaces more walkable for our residents as well. And just make sure to comment on her comment as well. I really want to make sure that private area could be enhanced for long-term future as well. Either shows, concerts, whatever they want to do there. Just make sure it looks great and nice. So, with that, there be no further. Passes unanimously. All right, thank you. Our next item is to consider amending Goodyear City Code, Chapter 13, Traffic regarding electric bicycles and electric scooters. Looks like we got our speaker. Please introduce yourself for the audience.
Time. All right. Good evening, Vice Mayor Hampton and Council. I am Jose Gonzalez, the Deputy Chief of Police at the Goodyear Police Department. Tonight, we will be going over the proposed e-bike, e-scooter ordinance that has been created in conjunction with Legal Services and the Prosecutor's Office. The ordinance has been requested by a number of you, and at the recent council retreat, I presented findings from research conducted in other cities on this issue, as well as recommendations for a Goodyear-specific ordinance, which is presented for your review and approval tonight. Our e-bike, e-scooter ordinance establishes regulations and safety guidelines for all classes of electric bicycles, motorized bicycles, electric stand-up scooters, electric miniature scooters, and it aligns local definitions with Arizona revised statutes. As part of our ordinance, speed and safe operation are addressed. Individuals utilizing these devices must obey posted speed limits. They must ride at a speed that is reasonable and safe for the conditions. And riders must control speeds to avoid hazards or collisions. During the council retreat, as well as my interactions with community members, age came up a lot in the conversation. So our ordinance does have some age restrictions in it. As far as our ordinance is concerned, individuals who are under 16 years of age are prohibited from using the larger Class 3 e-bicycles. Individuals who are under 14 years of age are prohibited from using the Class 1 and 2 bicycles, and individuals under the age of 12 are restricted from using the electric stand-up scooters. Our ordinance also addresses road positioning and the use of bike lanes. Individuals utilizing these devices must ride near the right-hand side of the roadway, and no more than two people abreast are able to ride side by side unless they're in bike designated areas. And individuals must use bike lanes when present, except in these circumstances when it is either unsafe or if you're on the roadway preparing to make a left-hand turn. Lastly, scooters are prohibited on roads with speed limits greater than 25 miles an hour. Some of the actions that this ordinance prohibits are as follows. Individuals may not ride against traffic unless you are on the electric miniature stand-up scooters. Those are the smaller ones. Those are permitted on sidewalks. Individuals cannot ignore posted signs. And this particular provision is important because it allows our partners in parks and recreations to post additional signage that further restricts the use of these devices in heavily congested areas such as near playgrounds and other gathering locations in our parks. These devices are, you're not allowed to use, you're not allowed to have passengers unless the device is specifically designed to have passengers. All riders under the age of 16 must wear a securely fastened helmet. And as it relates to the Class 3 e-bikes, individuals may not exceed the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on shared pathways in our city. And lastly, these devices are not allowed to be parked on any roadway or sidewalks to avoid the cluttering that can sometimes happen with these devices. DUI also was a topic of conversation in several of our gatherings, and our ordinance makes it illegal to be under the influence. An individual who has a alcohol concentration of greater than 0.08 is presumed impaired, and individuals who are in violation of this section of our ordinance will face penalties that include a minimum of 1 day in jail, a minimum of a $250 fine, as well as being mandated to possible treatment and or community service. The law as it relates to DUI in this section of our ordinance closely mirrors the Arizona revised statute. Now, the majority of the violations in our ordinance as proposed are civil in nature, and as such carry civil penalties. For example, first violations result in a $50 violation. Second results in $250 fine for that violation. And third violations result in $500 fines for those violations. Now, if the ordinance is approved, we're not going to go right into enforcement mode, issuing tickets and citations. We're going to take a 6-month period to work with our digital communications partners to come up with an educational campaign to really kind of focus on educating our community on the do's and don'ts of e-devices within our community. However, after that 6-month period, enforcement will begin, and we estimate that will take place somewhere around November of this year. And lastly, given all the conversations we've had surrounding this topic with all of you on the council, as well as our community members, our recommendation is that we approve the e-bike and e-scooter ordinance. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
Yes, Vice Mayor, we have one speaker, Harley Coffin.
Okay. Great, welcome. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The timer will be on the screen and will turn red when you have 20 seconds left. Before you begin to speak, identify yourself by clearly stating for the record your name and if you're a Goodyear resident.
Okay, my name is Harley Coffin. I am a Goodyear resident up in EMR. I had 16 seconds left last time, so do I get that or no? Hey, it was worth a shot.
Yeah.
If you remember, last month I came here, and it was actually a month early. I was here to support the e-bike, recommendation that ordinance that I understood that the police were going to put forward at that time. And I, really didn't expect a whole lot, when I came one way or the other. And, as I was leaving the building, I was approached by, Chief Issett, and he was very concerned. And he had the packet that I presented, and we went through that packet. And the response that I received from him, he told me, sorry about that. He told me, I can do this, I can't do this, and we don't know the direction we're gonna take, but we know that we are gonna be coming up with an ordinance. And so he said, but I tell you what I can do, and the things that he told me he could do, he followed through with. And that's a good thing. Likewise, one of the things that he told me that he was going to do was put me in contact with this gentleman, first time I've ever seen him. talked to him quite a bit on the phone over the last couple last month. But I just want to first of all commend Goodyear PD and their leadership. And I don't think it's said often enough that the job that they are doing and the job that they've been given, to accomplish, because everything that these two gentlemen have told me, has been right where it's at. And that's appreciated. Now, when I was talking with, Chief Deputy Gonzalez, this thing was with training, and, part of the thing with training is that our problem is not only e-bikes, but it's e-motorcycles. And there is a huge, huge, huge gap between what the public sees as an e-bike and an e-motorcycle. And if we don't put something about e-motorcycles inside the training that we're going to do, we're going to be here a year from now discussing the same issues. And so, I would strongly suggest that, we incorporate that into our training, because it's not the e-bikes. E-bikes are an issue, but the big issue are the e-motorcycles. And the people just really don't. We're dealing with teenagers and their parents. They either don't understand or they don't want to understand. And so we have to train them so that they know what it is. And so, again, I support this, and, thank you, Goodyear PD. Thank you for the council.
Thank you. Any other speaker cards?
No, Vice Mayor.
Okay, make sure I'm in the right team. Will the city clerk please read ordinance number 2026-1648 by title only?
Adopt ordinance number 2026-1648, amending Goodyear City Code, Chapter 13, Traffic, to enact a new Article 13-7, titled E-Bike, E-Scooter Regulations.
Will the council please enter a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 2026-1648? I see a motion and a second have been entered. Open for council discussion, starting with Council Member Keno.
Right, well, e-bikes and scooters are definitely a valid form of microtransit, and I know many people depend upon them to get around, to get to jobs. I was on a police ride-along this morning, and we did have an e-bike call, and it was noted that it would have been very helpful to have this ordinance in place at the time. So I'm really glad that we're this far along and getting it to go. Want to note there's a member of the Parks Commission here for this agenda item because it impacts parks as well, and the ability for the public to use them and public safety. My question for you is, are we going to wait until November to enforce DUIs on that? Is that part of your education strategy, or will you start enforcing that?
The DUI laws, thank you, Vice Mayor and Councilmember Camo for the question. The DUI laws are they're pretty established. I don't think it's going to be necessary for us to wait the 6 months. The 6 months we're going to utilize really for the do's and don'ts, and where can you ride these and where can you not, for the community. The DUIs will be enforced if we encounter those.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next up is Councilmember Terry. Oh, wait, Councilmember Gillis.
I'd like to thank the gentleman that just came up and spoke in favor of the police department. Thank you very much for that, because I'm a big, huge supporter of the police department. And Chief Issett is one of the best, as is Deputy Chief Gonzalez, Deputy Chief Kirk, all of them. I think they do their job unbelievably well. And so I'm very excited about this because I almost took 3 of them out yesterday. I mean, out, like might have even been dead. I was at an entrance going off off of Litchfield to where I live. And there was 3, and they were between 12 and 14, I would guess. And they were run right after the other. And they were playing. They had no business to be on e-bikes as far as I'm concerned. They were paying no attention to the laws, to the stoplights. The stoplight had stopped any traffic walking or moving this way as far as them, and had gone for me to take a right turn. I went to take a right turn, and all 3 of them darted out in front of me like that. And I was starting to go. If I'd have killed these kids, I'd have never forgiven myself, and it would not have been my fault. Do you see what I'm saying? I was very upset about this. And I thought, I wish that these laws were already in effect, because I thought to myself, there would have been 3 sets of parents, because they aren't paying attention to what their kids are doing. no helmets between 12 and 14 at least, no helmets, no nothing. Here's my question. We're waiting to enforce it until November of 26, correct? How are we going to enforce this with parents to really understand what's going on here? I mean, those kids would have been dead had I not honked my horn and laid on the brakes. Those kids would have been gone because they darted out that quick in front of me. This was just yesterday. How are we going to enforce it so these parents understand what is going on? This is scary to me.
Thank you for the question, Vice Mayor, Councilwoman Gillis. You are right. These situations are very dynamic and they can happen in a split second.
In a split second.
And part of the reason why we enacted or asking to have age restrictions in the ordinances for that same reason. Our kids simply don't realize the dangers of, operating these vehicles in and around, big, heavy cars.
Right.
Part of our strategy will be to obviously utilize our social media channels. We will be utilizing our digital communications folks to provide messaging for our parents that are out there that utilizing social media. We'll also engage the schools. We may barely get in. If we time this right, we might be able to get some educational materials out to the schools now before school gets out. But certainly in September when school resumes, we will be back in the schools, passing out information, letting folks know. Plus, we'll have our officers out there. Now, they're all very well aware of the e-bike, e-scooter issue because they received several calls about these devices. And so our officers are going to be empowered to go make contact. And when we do, engage in maybe some youngster who's utilizing these devices, one of the factors will be that they will have to be, we will have to contact their parents.
Yes.
Let the parents know as well, especially during this educational period. I think they'll appreciate the fact that we stopped their son or daughter. We reached out to, mom, dad, say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what they can and can't do. Here's a pamphlet to kind of help further educate you.
Right.
Come November, this could have resulted in a citation. And so it's going to be working in collaboration with our schools, our social media through digital communications, and really just our hands-on approach with the people we encounter on the streets and the parents if they're underage.
And do you think, Jose, that citations are going to be enough? What about the people that don't want to listen? I mean, and just keep paying the fines. The fines aren't that rough. I mean, what if they just keep paying the fines? Oh, too bad, this is what my kid wants to do. How do we deal with that?
Well, thank you for the question, Councilmember Gillis and Vice Mayor. That's part of the reason why we have the tiered approach. We may encounter folks who just simply don't want to obey the ordinance. We have a tiered approach as far as the fines are concerned, and individuals who do commit, violations of the ordinance on these devices within a 12-month period could see upwards of $500 fines for these devices. It is kind of a balancing act. We are trying to balance individuals' ability to use these devices because we have a great community to do so, but we're also trying to balance the safety of those who are driving and or using our parks because we have some great parks here in our city.
Yeah, I think they're great, and I think they're great if used correctly. And I think that yesterday it scared me. It really scared me. And the one kid, when I laid on the horn, kind of went like that. And I thought, oh, I could get out of this car right now. So I just want to be sure that we are so strict on this and follow through. And as soon as we can get it going, I mean, I'm all for this because that scared me like crazy yesterday. Those kids, I mean, I just kept thinking about those kids later that night. And if I'd have taken all three of them out, because they all went right after the other. So it was pretty scary. Thank you.
Now, Councilmember Terry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Deputy Chief, I regret to inform you that school starts, I think, either the last week of July or the first week of August.
I'm dating myself, sorry.
Kind of carrying on this conversation, I think something that's bugged me a little bit is, with emerging technology, we see this in all sorts of facets. The law is always slow to catch up. Other than the number of wheels, what is the difference in kind of the street legality and how we treat a vehicle between an e-bike, an e-motorcycle, and an electric car?
Thank you for the question, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Terry. That is an interesting question because you're right. As technology does emerge, cheaper forms of transportation for individuals looking to go to and from work are going to be needed and developed and used. In this situation, I think, when having the meetings with the entire council at the last retreat, hearing all of your concerns about these devices, interacting with community members who also were frustrated with their interactions with individuals on it, the idea here that the issue is our kids. That's kind of what we're worried about here is our kids. I remember being young. I still think I am, even though I'm not. And I remember that feeling of being invincible. And the one thing here with these e-bikes and e-scooters is, they're different than a car because of where they can go. That's clearly outlined in the Arizona revised statute. But these e-scooters and e-bikes can virtually go anywhere. And the real danger is the individual who's riding on these devices not realizing that they can probably maneuver quicker than any person walking, and they can turn, stop, and do everything faster than a 1,000-pound car. And so part of this endeavor, if you will, is really trying to get out during these next 6 months to really highlight the safety concerns when utilizing these. Because again, if they're operated safely and within the guidelines that they were designed, they're great. They're great modes of transportation. But when you mix kids who maybe sometimes feel invincible and you give them something that goes 28 miles an hour, there's a real recipe for disaster, which is why we also included some of the safety equipment in there, like helmets, because that's just something basic that we can do to try to help out our youngsters.
You mentioned 28 miles per hour. I know the ordinance says 25. My understanding, this gets into state law. The state of Arizona covers vehicle registration. E-bikes don't require vehicle registration under the premise that they are under 25 miles an hour. I think that's a gap that the state will have to look at for these bikes that are now going faster. But I just wanted to clarify, the reason we target that 25 mile an hour, the residential speed limit, is specifically because, for example, an e-bike or scooter does not require a license plate. Is that correct?
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Councilmember Terry. Yes, that's correct. These devices, you can buy them online. You can buy them just about anywhere. And so part of the reason that we're, asking for this ordinance to be approved is because it gives us a mechanism by which we can not only, kind of determine where we want these items utilized, but really for the safety concern of our kids, because there is no real licensing or registration requirement when you're buying these devices.
Okay. I've heard that a lot from residents on, kids doing what kids do and blowing right past pedestrians or through them, things like that. And there's no way to track, and there isn't. But it's going to require, increased patrols, increased education. Councilwoman Gillis mentioned about, maybe some belligerents out there early on, repeat offenders, knowing, they're not going to enforce it till November. You're still authorized under an officer's discretion to enforce this in the interim. Is that correct?
Once it is approved and adopted, yes, we can legally conduct the enforcement necessary. The goal will be education, but the officers do have discretion if they do come across someone who just flat out refuses to, try to comply with the ordinance provisions.
And then what is the legality? So if I'm a repeat offender with a car or, let's say an electric car, it could potentially get impounded based on the severity of, the violations over and over and over again. Where would that come in, if at all, under this ordinance, under current, state law? I know I'm throwing something at you here, but I make up great stuff in my head while Councilwoman Gillis is talking. But would that potentially come into play for, potential belligerents? Or is it not really what we're talking about yet?
Give me one.
And if you don't know, that's fine. I'd like to know that answer maybe within, the coming week or so. It's not going to sway my opinion today.
Vice Mayor, thank you, and Councilmember Derry, thank you for the question. Let me take a look, and I know our legal advisor is coming up.
Yes.
Unless he's got the answer, I'll look it up here in the actual ordinance.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, members of council, Councilmember Terry. I'm not totally sure I understand your question.
So say you have a repeat offender, is the potential of impounding an e-bike legally on the table, as would, excessive speed with a car? Cars can be impounded with DUIs, with, various things like that. Does it require a DUI for impounding, or I've had residents ask me this question, so I wanted to ask.
If we're talking about the proposed ordinance, there is no impoundment requirement in the ordinance. However, the police department very likely, since they're taking that person into custody, would also take the e-bike with them and hang on to that until such time I shouldn't say valid, but I should say somebody who's not intoxicated or the appropriate owner can come over and go ahead and take it so it can be operated safely. It's not like the vehicle code or 3511 ARS 283511 with the mandatory tow and the impoundment for 20 days or 30 days depending on the level of DUI. That's not addressed within the ordinance.
Okay.
Because we're hoping we don't have a bunch of 14-year-olds cruising around at like a .25. That would be a big problem.
Yeah.
Maybe I can jump in here and further muddy the waters. There's two violations in the ordinance. One is civil, which is most of the violations in the ordinance, not having the helmet on, riding in the wrong spots. That's civil. I don't believe there would be any impoundment for a civil violation. For the misdemeanor that we're talking about, which is the second part of the ordinance, which is the DUI, it could be up to the officer's discretion on impounding the vehicle.
And Rourke, you are absolutely 100% correct. The criminal side is completely different than the civil side. So I guess to your belligerence question, on the civil side, if somebody keeps operating the e-bike in violation of a civil section of this ordinance, there's only so much we can do up to the $500. Now, that doesn't mean there's other things, because there is a section in here that does address like reckless riding and things along those lines, which are criminal. So depending on the conduct observed by the officer, they could make a decision that this satisfies reckless, and then they can go criminal.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. Like I said, I've had a few residents ask that question, and I'm quite amazed we had two attorneys come to less than 3 opinions on this topic.
Name the police, Councilman.
Yes, and the police.
We can keep going if you want.
Okay. Well, no, he offered. I do have one more. It wasn't specifically mentioned in the presentation, but we have talked about parks, ball fields, Little League season's just wrapping up. I feel like I'm there almost as much as I'm home the last couple months, with e-bikes flying through the sidewalks of our parks between ball fields where you have crowds, concessions, or the bathroom facilities, those sorts of things. A lot of kids just walking around, running around, families running around. That would the riding at all or under a slow speed be permitted there? I didn't see it specifically addressed in the presentation, so I wanted to throw that hypothetical.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Councilmember Terry. Yeah, so the ordinance, we wrote it in such a way that allows our folks over at Parks and Rec to further restrict areas that are heavily congested. Part of the ordinance says that you must obey all signs that the city puts up. And so if Parks chooses to put up a sign that says no e-use or no e-device use, period, then that is enforceable under this ordinance. If they decide to regulate speeds even slower than what we've outlined in our ordinance, they have that ability to do so because they're doing it in the spirit of safety for anyone who's in their parks or in their facilities for everyone to enjoy safely, if that answers the question.
Yeah, that does. So it's left to parks. I just wanted to throw that hypothetical because I've seen these e-bikes just zipping between families, small kids, between ball fields quite a bit over the last couple months. So
that also addresses GSQ as this area gets built out. We're not going to want these fast e-bikes zipping in and around where it's heavily congested. We may further restrict that as well based on safety.
Okay. All right, thank you, Deputy Chief. Thank you, Vice
Councilman,
Mayor.
Just as an illustration of that, at City Hall right here, we did put up signs indicating in the breezeway it's pedestrian only.
Okay,
And that was by request. So you might see those yellow signs that are in the front of the building and in the back of the building. So anybody coming in from the green belt, anybody in the front, they have to pass those.
and that is enforceable through the ordinance.
100%.
Got it. All right. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
All right, looks like Councilmember Beckles is next.
Yes. So just for clarification's sake, does it matter if the device they're on, whether it's rented or owned in terms of a violation, if they're violating the rules? Does that matter?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Beckles. No, our ordinance literally addresses use. And so if individuals are engaged in use that is prohibited in our ordinance, they will then be subject to, if it's criminal violations or civil penalties as outlined in my presentation.
For the minors, they get a citation. Is the citation for the minor or is it citation for the parent?
Tony can correct me on this, but if we encounter a minor and we opt to go the way of civil citation for the fine, we will give that to the parent. They're going to be the ones held responsible for.
The parent's going to be one held responsible for the citation?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good clarification there. Okay, do our neighboring cities, do they mirror what we're doing? My question is, we've got Buckeye, Litchfield Park, Avondale, and someone from one of those cities comes over and and violates our rules, then what happens?
Well, if the ordinance is approved, they are subject to our rules. Now, that doesn't mean that an officer who's encountering someone who might be cutting through because they're going to work can't take the opportunity to educate them and make them aware to gain compliance. We can certainly do that, but if it's a situation where maybe someone did get hurt because of they hit a pedestrian, our officers are obligated, and I shouldn't say obligated, they can take enforcement action, just like we can also use discretion to educate folks if it's one of those situations where maybe they just didn't know.
And from after we've gone into after November, if it's a minor and they've crossed over from another city?
Same situation. Like I said, it'll be at the officer's discretion. Again, if some minor comes into our city, and we encounter them, we're gonna talk to them, we're gonna let their parents know, because their parents may not even know they're in the city of Goodyear, depending on where they're from, and we can kind of work with them on another angle that way. But yeah, we will reach out to the parents.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Campbell.
Mine's really short because I want to go home. Sorry. I would like to recommend to you, which I know you already are going to do it, be sure that this information goes to every bike store in Goodyear. It's really critical, and especially long before Christmas, because the parents are going to be buying these bikes for the kids for Christmas. So while you like November 1, you might even think the end of October or middle of October, because parents put bicycles on layaway. And I'm really, I just don't want that to have as a problem. Also, my second concern is I am concerned about the electric scooters or the e-bikes running through the pedestrian across the street just as the light changes. That did happen to me. I didn't have a nervous breakdown because I had a police car beside me who turned his lights on and went and got the guy. But that doesn't happen very often. So I don't know how we're going to stop these kids trying to beat the light, because we have said we have to treat you like a pedestrian. You can walk in the walk. So I just don't know how to address that. And I'm not suggesting that you redo something, but maybe you can tell me later. And then the last thing is it difficult for us to amend this ordinance and add the e-scooters, the e-motorcycles? Can that be inserted if we move to amend it and put it in? Because I'm concerned about them too. I saw one just this week going down the street with no license, no light, no nothing, just zipping right down McDowell. So what do you think, without
Thank
messing
you,
up your ordinance? Because you know, I've been giving you ordinances from every city that passed one for the last 6 months saying, where's ours, where's ours? So,
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Councilmember Campbell for the questions. I'll address them in order, and then I'll let legal talk about the last one. But as far as reaching out to local bike shops and businesses, absolutely. That's going to be part of our strategy is, again, we want to get the word out as much as possible, the do's and don'ts of these devices, because we know they're not going away, and we want to make sure we give everyone an opportunity to learn. And as far as our ordinance, what we did say in our ordinance is that, yes, we talked about, you're treated kind of like a pedestrian, but if you're on an e-device, you have to yield the right of way to pedestrians. And so that is a designation in our ordinance so that, again, they have to slow down. They have to make sure that they're doing things safely so that we don't injure individuals who are walking around.
well, that wasn't my concern. It's like what Councilwoman Gillis was saying. The light changed or the pedestrian light went off. If you're like the third lane
yes.
or second lane, you don't see them coming
Yeah.
unless you move out. And as you move out, they could be almost on top of you. That's what I'm worried about.
And that, that may happen, and that's part of why we're here today, right? Because it has happened, several times.
Sure.
And so through robust education, enforcement, when we get to that point, hopefully we can begin to kind of turn the tide on individuals realizing that they're in dangerous territory when they're mixing these devices and not being mindful of their surroundings when operating on the street. So yeah, that'll be part of this whole process
Okay,
to
good. Thank
hopefully educate everyone and
Good.
get them to understand the do's and don'ts of the devices. Now,
Okay.
as far as the, what was your?
Motorcycles.
The motorcycles.
Yes.
My understanding right now is, although it's not specifically, prescribed in our ordinance, Arizona Revised Statute does have regulations and things already in place that we can enforce. If they're operating an electric motorcycle and they're not, they don't have an endorsement for motorcycle, riding a motorcycle.
yes.
And it's not registered, we can issue citations, we can impound the bikes right then and there. Part of what we're trying to tell our folks too in the community is that if you see these types of activities going on, don't hesitate to call us. Let us know, because we may not catch them right then and there, but maybe we can establish a pattern and eventually we'll get them and we can find out where they're at. Because again, I've seen those bikes, the similar situation to yours. I was on the road too, and I see these 3 weird bikes coming at me, and I'm like, those are like little miniature motorcycles.
Yeah, you didn't even know what they were, really.
Yeah.
And they're going so darn fast, it scared you, though. So put Buddy and his group on them. Let the
you go.
motors have them.
They'll be a part of it, trust me.
Good.
They
Good.
will be a part of it.
That's it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Gillis.
I should have made it clear. The e-bikers that were riding that I almost hit were on the sidewalk. Are they supposed to be on the sidewalk? Are they supposed to be on the street? Or we don't have anything for that yet?
They're supposed to be on the right-hand edge, as outlined in the ordinance, they're supposed to be on the
Below
right-hand
the
edge of the
sidewalk.
roadway, in bike lanes when present, and if safe to do so.
Yeah.
And if because we don't want to mix pedestrians and
No, these were on the
devices.
sidewalk, and when the light changed, they took off in front of me as I'm getting ready to turn. So they were on the sidewalk. They'd have taken out a pedestrian, and I'd have taken out them, which wouldn't have been good.
For sure.
All right, thank you.
All right, I had some questions too. So, I just want to clarify, I have a 14-year-old, so, he just left just now on his e-bike, so to go to the gym. So,
Your son?
yeah. So the bikes, anything that has pedals is a considered a bike
Yes,
class, okay. And then those they need to be on the road in a bike lane, not on the sidewalk where bike lanes are. Those are bike lanes to be in.
yes, correct.
Okay. And then you said on your slide here, so 14-year-olds can be on the 2 and 1 or 1 and 2 e-bikes.
Correct. Anyone under the age of 14 are prohibited from being on
Cannot
class
be.
1s
Okay.
and 2s.
Okay, he just got it for his birthday. He's 14, so just making sure.
It's good to go.
So and
As long
then-
as it's not a class 3. The hard part about this, and we
Yeah.
talked about it at the retreat, was it's sometimes hard to differentiate just based on sight. You literally have to look at the manufacturer's sticker to figure out what type of class bike it is,
Yeah,
because
they go
that's
quick.
required per ARS.
Okay, and then, so helmets, no matter what, for everything there, except 16-year-olds can make their own decision, like a car. And then I'm on board with, so if it's $50, $250, $500, I'm okay if it keeps scaling up to where you do just take their bike from them. But I don't know if we could do that legally. but I'd be in support of that. And then, talking about parks and the breezeway here, is that a, can I get off my bike and walk it through the breezeway then, right?
That's precisely what it is.
Okay,
It's a no
good.
pedestrian area and, or I'm sorry, no pedestrians, it's pedestrians only. And
Yeah.
then because of kids, and I don't necessarily know if it was e-bikes, but there were kids on their skateboards and other
Scooters,
things
skateboards.
doing launches off the front
Yeah.
steps and taking videos and all that. So
Yeah.
that was brought to our attention and, we solved that issue pretty quickly.
Okay. And yeah, and the park's like, I'm okay. I mean, maybe reduction in speed or a warning, but just, hey, there's pedestrians here. They have the right of way. I think that's where the education. And then scooters can be, because I always have a 12-year-old. So the scooters can be on the sidewalks. Any, going the right
electric
direction of flow of
miniatures-
traffic.
Electric miniature scooters can be on sidewalks. Those are the ones that I think go only like 10 to 15 miles an hour. It's leaving my mind right now. The electric stand-up scooters, those are the bigger, heavier ones. Those are also, we want them on the bike lanes. But the restriction here is if it's greater than 25 miles an hour, we don't want them on our big heavily congested streets, so.
So like Van Buren, you don't, or under 20, so if you're in the neighborhood, you can ride if you're a 12-year-old, you can ride up your electric
Correct, yes.
19-mile-an-hour scooter through the neighborhood. But if you're on Van Buren, you want those guys on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Going
They have to yield the right of way to
going to
pedestrians.
with the flow of traffic on the sidewalk.
With the flow of traffic, yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. What was the other thing? Impound. Okay, clarification. I told my son I was gonna make it 15-year-olds, but he didn't want me to do that, so.
Sorry,
But-
nice try.
But yeah, so, okay. Yeah, no, I think a lot of education, like to your point, because a lot of these kids they don't drive, so they don't know the rules of the road. So they're learning, this is their first entry into what that even looks like. And so, I mean, I had a kid almost get hit by a car on a bicycle when I was growing up, so flying into the road. So, I think it's a lot of education. This would be a lot of work ahead of you. If you can patrol my neighborhood, that'd be pretty good. Getting my kids, educate them over and over again. But I see, I think hitting the schools is gonna be really important, because my son says there's tons of kids that are underage, probably at this point, who are all show up on e-bikes, e-scooters to go to school now. So they're not getting away from bicycles, they're just using those devices. So I think elementary schools would be really, really good. And obviously the high schools are really good too, to hit those up, because kids are using them as opposed to the bus, because they're convenient, they're fast, they're quick. So, and you can use like a car. So, but I still think they're educated on it. So thank you for that portion as well. So I think that's all the questions I had and clarification, so I can let my son know he can ride his bike scooter. So, and then, all right, there being no further discussion, please open the vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. All right, moving into information items. Does the council have any comments, commendations, or reports on current events or requests for future items? Seeing none. Does the city manager have anything to report?
Good evening, Vice Mayor. I do have a few things to report. Bear with me. First thing, we had a community event this weekend with Councilmember Beckles in attendance. While these bring in smaller attendance numbers, they are incredibly popular with the Goodyear residents. Below is a brief update for the movie night. On Saturday, April 25th, over 700 community members attended the movie in the park at the Goodyear Recreation Campus featuring Zootopia 2. Event highlights included a 32-foot inflatable screen, 2 food trucks, 3D toy printing, face painting, and 20 interactive animals from Creature Kingdom. Families enjoyed 90 minutes of pre-event fun with arts and crafts, plus yard games like hopscotch, Jenga, Connect 4 Frisbee, and chalk drawing. And also, we have several awards and a recognition to share tonight. I'd like to begin by acknowledging our outstanding economic development team for their recent achievements. At the Arizona Association of Economic Development Spring Conference, the city of Goodyear received 2 Economic Development Distinguished by Excellence Awards. The team was named Organization of the Year in the Medium Population category, an honor that reflects exceptional impact, strong partnerships, and meaningful contributions to advancing the profession. In addition, Business Development Manager Claire Bruns was recognized as Emerging Leader of the Year for her innovation, leadership, and commitment to strengthening both our community and future of economic development. These awards highlight what we already know, that this is a high-performing, forward-thinking team making a real difference. And that brings us to the leader behind that success. Tonight marks a bittersweet moment as we recognize Wendy Bridges, who is retiring from the city of Goodyear this week, and for whom this is her final council meeting. Over the course of a 30-year career in Arizona, Wendy has built legacy defined by purpose, impact, and service to others. Since joining Goodyear in 2021, Wendy has led efforts that delivered more than 9,300 jobs, nearly $2.4 billion in new investment, and 12.7 million square feet of development, positioning our city as one of the fastest growing communities in the nation. Wendy has guided the city through a period of rapid growth with vision and determination, building strong partnerships, an award-winning team that continues to earn recognition, including Organization of the Year honors in both 2024 and, as I mentioned before, in 2026 this year. We are especially grateful for her leadership laying the foundation for sports and tourism strategy, including helping the city bring Buc-ee's to town, creating new visibility, energy, and economic opportunity for our community. But what truly sets Wendy apart is her belief that economic development is ultimately about people, creating opportunities that change lives and the future. On behalf of the city, thank you, Wendy, for your leadership, your service, and your lasting impact. We wish you all the best in your well-earned retirement. So I just asked, because you're in the penalty box there, any parting words of wisdom for us and your team?
First, thank you. First, on the awards, I would like to recognize this amazing team. They are some of the most dedicated professionals I've had the pleasure of working with, and I'm proud of every single one of them. And on the retirement, of course, it's bittersweet. I love doing what I've been doing for several decades, and definitely couldn't do it without such a great team to have such amazing results. And certainly the city of Goodyear is just the place where, as an economic development practitioner, it's a dream to work. The progress and great work that's happening here is so intentional and thoughtful, and being able to represent the community that I also live in to bring great things for our residents and our business community has been incredibly rewarding, and I consider myself very, very blessed to wrap up my career in such an amazing place. So thank you all.
And so thank you, Vice Mayor. That concludes my comments, but I would invite you and the rest of the council to be able to take a photo with the economic development team at the conclusion after the conclusion of the meeting. Okay. But thank you.
Great, thank you. Thanks for bringing home the hardware, team. Good job. Thank you, Wendy. All right, the next meeting will be May the 4th, be with you, May 4th, 2026. There being no further business to discuss, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.